11 minutes before walking down the aisle, Isabella Reeves was face down in the bridal suite, her $4,000 dress soaked crimson, while her maid of honor stood over her with a kitchen knife still dripping. The 200 guests were seated, the string quartet was playing. The groom was adjusting his tie at the altar. But here's what nobody knew, including the police who arrived 6 minutes later. The woman holding that knife wasn't trying to kill the bride. She was trying to save her life. Because in exactly 11 minutes, Isabella was supposed to marry the man who had already planned her murder. Welcome back to Crime Vault, where we expose the cases that will make you question everything you think you know about the people closest to you. I'm your host, and what you're about to hear is so twisted, so calculated, that it took investigators 3 years to believe it actually happened. If you're new to our community of truth seekers, hit that subscribe button right now because we drop cases like this every single week. Cases where the real monsters are hiding behind the perfect smiles. And trust me, after today's story, you'll never look at a wedding the same way again. Now let's dive into the 11 minutes that exposed a conspiracy so deadly, it involved murder, millions of dollars, and a bridesmaid who became a hero by becoming a criminal. This is the story of Isabella Reeves, a 28-year-old marketing executive who thought she was marrying her college sweetheart. Instead, she was about to become the fourth woman to die mysteriously after marrying into the Thornfield family. Her maid of honor, Zoe Parker, had been Isabella's best friend since freshman year. She'd thrown the engagement party, planned the bachelorette weekend, and spent months helping Isabella prepare for what should have been the happiest day of her life. So why did Zoe walk into that bridal suite with a knife? The answer lies in a phone call Zoe accidentally overheard at 2:17 a.m. the night before the wedding, a conversation between the groom and his mother that revealed a plan so sick, so methodical that Zoe realized she had exactly 18 hours to choose. Let her best friend die on her honeymoon, or destroy her wedding day to save her life. Isabella met Marcus Thornfield at Northwestern University in 2018. He was everything she thought she wanted. Minors, charming, ambitious, from a wealthy Chicago family with old money connections. Isabella came from a working-class family in Milwaukee. Her parents ran a small bakery that was struggling financially. Marcus pursued her relentlessly. Expensive dinners, weekend trips, flowers delivered to her dorm room twice a week. Isabella's friends, including Zoe, thought it was romantic. Looking back, the signs were there from the beginning. Marcus isolated Isabella, slowly. First, he'd get jealous when she made plans with friends. Then he'd create conflicts that forced her to choose between him and her social life. By senior year, Isabella barely spoke to anyone except Marcus and Zoe. But here's what nobody understood at the time. Marcus wasn't just controlling, he was calculating. The Thornfield family had a secret. Marcus's father, Richard Thornfield, had built their fortune through insurance fraud. Not the small-time kind. We're talking about elaborate schemes involving staged accidents, bribes to medical examiners, and claims worth millions. Marcus had been trained since childhood to spot the perfect victims. Women with limited family support, modest backgrounds, and most importantly, women whose deaths wouldn't generate too much scrutiny. Isabella's perfect. After graduation, Marcus moved to Milwaukee to be closer to Isabella. He got a job at a prestigious law firm, but his real focus was on Isabella's family. He learned about their financial struggles, their medical histories, their insurance policies. When Isabella's father had a minor heart attack in 2021, Marcus was right there with offers to help. He paid for the medical bills, helped refinance their business loan, and slowly made the Reeves family financially dependent on his generosity. That's when he proposed. The engagement ring cost $40,000, a sum that impressed everyone and made Isabella feel like a princess. But what Isabella didn't know was that Marcus had also taken out a $3 million life insurance policy in her name, listing himself as the sole beneficiary. The wedding planning began immediately. Marcus's mother, Patricia Thornfield, insisted on paying for everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers. It would be a $250,000 celebration that Isabella's family could never afford. But there was a catch. The wedding had to be exactly what the Thornfield family wanted. The location minus a remote resort in the Bahamas, perfect for accidents. The honeymoon, a private yacht with no witnesses. Even the guest list was carefully curated to exclude anyone who might ask too many questions. Zoe watched all of this happen with growing unease. Marcus was too perfect, too generous, too controlling. She tried to voice her concerns to Isabella, but every conversation ended the same way, with Isabella defending Marcus and accusing Zoe of being jealous. The breaking point came 3 months before the wedding, when Zoe decided to do some research on the Thornfield family. What she found would change everything. Zoe's investigation started innocently enough. She wanted to understand Marcus's family better, maybe find some embarrassing childhood stories to tease him about at the reception. Instead, she uncovered a pattern of death that went back 15 years. Marcus had been engaged twice before Isabella. Both women died within 6 months of their weddings. The first was Amanda Chen, a graduate student Marcus dated in 2015. They got engaged after a whirlwind 6-month romance. Amanda died in a boating accident during their honeymoon in Greece. The investigation concluded it was a tragic mishap. Amanda had been drinking, slipped overboard at night, and drowned before Marcus could save her. Marcus collected $1.8 million from Amanda's life insurance policy. The second was Rebecca Martinez, a teacher Marcus met in 2019. Same pattern: intense courtship, expensive engagement, lavish wedding paid for by the Thornfield family. Rebecca died in a hiking accident in Costa Rica 3 months after the wedding. She fell from a cliff while taking photos of the sunset. Marcus was the only witness. Another $2.2 million insurance payout. Zoe found newspaper articles, police reports, even social media posts from the victims' families questioning the official conclusions. But the Thornfield family had connections: expensive lawyers, friendly investigators, medical examiners who were willing to sign off on convenient conclusions. The pattern was perfect. Marcus would find vulnerable women, sweep them off their feet, isolate them from their support systems, and then arrange for tragic accidents in remote locations where he was the only witness. But Zoe found something else, something that made her blood run cold. Marcus had already booked the honeymoon yacht, a private vessel with a crew of 2, scheduled to sail to isolated waters off the Bahamas. The same company had provided boats for both Amanda's and Rebecca's honeymoons. Zoe tried to tell Isabella everything, but Isabella refused to listen. She accused Zoe of being obsessed with conspiracy theories, of trying to ruin her happiness out of jealousy. "You're being paranoid," Isabella said during their last conversation before the wedding week. "Marcus loves me. His family loves me. These women's deaths were accidents. You need to stop this or you're not going to be in my wedding." Zoe realized she was running out of time and options. The wedding was in 6 days. After that, Isabella would be on a boat in the middle of the ocean with a man who had killed at least twice before. That's when Zoe made a decision that would save Isabella's life and nearly destroy her own. She decided to get proof. The night before the wedding, Zoe broke into Marcus's hotel room while he was at the bachelor party. She installed recording software on his phone and computer, then waited. At 2:17 a.m., Marcus returned to his room and immediately called his mother. What Zoe heard in that 15-minute conversation would expose the most cold-blooded murder conspiracy she could have imagined. "Is everything ready for tomorrow?" Patricia Thornfield's voice was crisp, businesslike. "The boat's been inspected," Marcus replied. "Same crew as last time. They know what they're getting paid for." "And the girl suspects nothing?" Isabella's clueless. Just like the others, she's so grateful for everything we've done for her family, she'd never question anything. Zoe's hands were shaking as she listened to the recording through her headphones. This was it, the confession she needed. But Marcus wasn't finished. "The insurance investigators might be more thorough this time," he continued. "2 previous wives dying in accidents looks like a pattern. That's why we're switching to the yacht scenario instead of the cliff," Patricia said. "Drowning accidents are more common, and this time you'll have witnesses to your grief." "What about the family? Isabella's parents?" "They'll be devastated, but they're too financially dependent on us to cause problems. We've made sure of that. After a few months of mourning, we'll quietly settle their debts and they'll be grateful for our continued generosity." Zoe felt sick. They weren't just planning to kill Isabel. They were planning to manipulate her grieving family afterward. "The new policy should pay out within 60 days. Patricia continued. $3 million plus the separate policy we took out through the offshore company. We're looking at nearly $5 million total. And if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong. We've done this twice before. The key is making sure you're seen as the devoted husband trying to save his wife. Panic, call for help, jump in the water yourself, make it look real." Marcus laughed, a sound that made Zoe's skin crawl. "I'm getting good at playing the grieving widower. Just remember, no deviation from the plan. The boat captain will create the distraction. Isabella will be drinking the champagne we prepared. When she gets dizzy and disoriented, help her to the deck for fresh air. The rest takes care of itself." "What about her friend?" Zoe's been asking too many questions. "She's suspicious but has no proof. After tomorrow, it won't matter. Grieving friends eventually move on." The call ended at 2:32 a.m. Zoe sat in her car outside the hotel, staring at the recording device, trying to process what she'd heard. They weren't just planning to kill Isabella during the honeymoon. They were planning to drug her first, making it easier to stage her drowning. She had less than 10 hours before the wedding ceremony. Even with the recording, would anyone believe her? Would the police act fast enough to stop a murder that hadn't happened yet? And then there was Isabella herself. After months of refusing to listen to Zoe's concerns, would she believe the truth even with audio proof? Zoe drove straight to Isabella's bridal suite at the resort. It was 3:15 a.m. when she knocked on the door. Isabella answered, angry and confused. Zoe, what are you doing here? I told you. You need to listen to this. Zoe played the recording. Isabella's face went white, then red. Then she collapsed into a chair, shaking. This can't be real, she whispered. Marcus loves me. He saved my father's life. He's been nothing but generous to my family. That's exactly what they're counting on, Zoe said. Isabella, you cannot marry him. We need to call the police right now. But Isabella shook her head. We can't. What if you're wrong? What if this is some kind of misunderstanding? My parents have invested everything in this wedding. Marcus's family has spent $250,000. If I call this off and we're wrong, it will destroy everyone. If you don't call this off and we're right, you'll be dead in a week. Isabella was quiet for a long time. Finally, she looked up at Zoe with tears in her eyes. I can't do it, she said. I can't destroy my family's relationship with the Thornfields based on a recording that might be taken out of context. I'm sorry, Zoe, but I'm getting married in 8 hours. That's when Zoe realized she had only one option left. If Isabella wouldn't save herself, Zoe would have to do it for her. Zoe left Isabella's room at 4:30 a.m. with a plan that terrified her but seemed like the only option. She couldn't let her best friend marry a serial killer, but she also couldn't convince Isabella to call off the wedding. So she decided to stop the wedding herself. Zoe's background in pre-med gave her the knowledge she needed. She understood human anatomy, knew where to cut to create a dramatic injury without causing permanent damage. The plan was risky. If she miscalculated by even a few millimeters, she could accidentally kill Isabella while trying to save her. But doing nothing meant certain death for Isabella on that yacht. Zoe spent the morning of the wedding acting normal. She helped Isabella get dressed, did her makeup, posed for photos with the bridal party, all while carrying a small knife she'd taken from the resort's kitchen prep area. At 11:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the ceremony, Zoe asked Isabella to come to the bridal suite alone. I have something for you, she said. A surprise gift. In the suite, Zoe tried one more time. Isabella, please. I'm begging you. Don't do this. I have proof that Marcus has killed 2 women. You will be next. Isabella's response was firm. Zoe, I love you, but you need to stop. I'm marrying Marcus in 25 minutes and nothing you say is going to change that. I'm sorry, Zoe whispered. Sorry for what? That's when Zoe pulled out the knife. Isabella's eyes went wide. Zoe, what are you doing? I'm saving your life. The struggle was brief but convincing. Zoe had planned every detail. Where to cut, how deep, which angle would create the most blood while avoiding major arteries. Isabella's scream was genuine, her collapse was real, and the blood spreading across her white dress was horrifying. But Zoe had calculated correctly. The wound looked fatal but was actually superficial. Isabella lay on the floor, staring up at her best friend in shock and betrayal. Why? She gasped. Because I'd rather have you hate me and alive than love me and dead, Zoe replied, then ran to call 911. The chaos that followed was exactly what Zoe had planned. Paramedics, police, wedding guests screaming and crying. The ceremony was canceled immediately. Isabella was rushed to the hospital. And Marcus's reaction told Zoe everything she needed to know about whether she'd made the right choice. Instead of being devastated that his bride was potentially dying, Marcus seemed relieved. Detective Sarah Rodriguez was the first investigator to arrive at the resort. The scene was chaotic, blood in the bridal suite, a bride in critical condition, and a maid of honor who had confessed to attempted murder. On the surface, it looked like a straightforward case of jealousy gone wrong. But something felt off to Detective Rodriguez. Marcus's behavior was strange. For a man whose bride had just been stabbed, he seemed more concerned about the logistics, canceling vendors, dealing with guests, than about Isabella's condition. When Rodriguez interviewed him, Marcus was calm, collected, almost clinical in his responses. He showed no real emotion about Isabella's injury, just frustration about the disrupted wedding. Did Zoe ever express romantic feelings for Isabella? Rodriguez asked. Not that I know of, Marcus replied, but she's always been jealous of our relationship. She tried to convince Isabella not to marry me several times. That comment made Rodriguez curious. She decided to interview Zoe before charging her. Zoe was in the county jail, having been arrested immediately after confessing to the stabbing. When Rodriguez sat down across from her, she expected to find a woman consumed by jealousy or mental illness. Instead, she found someone who seemed terrified but determined. I need you to listen to something, Zoe said, sliding a phone across the table. It's a recording I made last night. Rodriguez listened to the entire 15-minute conversation between Marcus and his mother. Her expression changed with each minute of audio. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "I broke into Marcus's hotel room and recorded his phone calls. I know that makes the recording inadmissible in court, but it's proof of what he was planning to do to Isabella." Rodriguez was quiet for a long time. Finally, she asked, "Why didn't you bring this to us before the wedding? Would you have believed me? A woman claiming her best friend's fiancé is a serial killer, based on a recording I obtained illegally? You would have thought I was crazy or jealous?" Rodriguez had to admit Zoe was right. The story was so outlandish that without corroborating evidence, it would have been dismissed. "So you decided to commit assault to stop a murder that hadn't happened yet?" "I decided to save my best friend's life the only way I could think of." Rodriguez left the interview with a decision to make. Either she was looking at a jealous woman who had fabricated an elaborate story to justify attempted murder, or she was looking at someone who had uncovered a serial killer operating with impunity for years. She decided to investigate Marcus Thornfield. What she found confirmed Zoe's story and revealed something even more disturbing. The Thornfield family's murder conspiracy was bigger than anyone had imagined. Detective Rodriguez's investigation into Marcus Thornfield revealed a family enterprise built on murder and insurance fraud spanning 3 generations. Richard Thornfield, Marcus's father, had started the scheme in the 1990s. He would identify wealthy widows, court them, marry them, and then arrange convenient accidents. Over 20 years, he had collected over $15 million in life insurance payouts. When Marcus came of age, Richard expanded the operation. Instead of targeting widows, they would find young women with no family connections, no one who would investigate too thoroughly if they died in tragic accidents. Patricia Thornfield wasn't just Marcus's mother, she was the operations coordinator. She researched potential victims, arranged the insurance policies through shell companies, and maintained relationships with corrupt officials who would rule deaths accidental without thorough investigation. The yacht company that provided boats for the honeymoons was owned by Richard Thornfield. The crew members were paid to create accidents and serve as witnesses to Marcus's grief and his attempts to save his wives. But Rodriguez discovered something that shocked her even more than the murders themselves. Marcus had a younger brother, Thomas, who was being trained to continue the family business. Thomas was currently engaged to a kindergarten teacher named Emily Watson. Their wedding was scheduled for 6 months after Marcus and Isabella's was supposed to take place. Rodriguez realized she hadn't just uncovered a serial killer, she'd exposed a murder factory. The investigation expanded rapidly. The FBI became involved when they discovered the insurance fraud crossed state lines. Investigators in Greece and Costa Rica reopened the cases of Amanda Chen and Rebecca Martinez. Medical examiners who had ruled the deaths accidental were questioned. The yacht crew was arrested and offered immunity in exchange for testimony. Within 2 weeks, the entire Thornfield operation was exposed. Marcus, Patricia, and Richard Thornfield were arrested on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and racketeering. Thomas Thornfield was arrested as an accessory. Emily Watson, Thomas's fiancée, was placed in protective custody after investigators discovered Thomas had already taken out a $2 million life insurance policy in her name. Isabella, recovering from her staged injury, was horrified to learn how close she had come to death. The yacht reservation, the drugs, champagne, the paid crew members, every detail of her planned murder had been meticulously arranged. But the story doesn't end there. The trial of Marcus Thornfield became one of the most watched criminal cases of the year. The prosecution presented evidence of a murder conspiracy that had claimed at least 4 lives over 15 years. Amanda Chen, Rebecca Martinez, and 2 elderly women Richard Thornfield had married and killed in the 1990s. Marcus's defense team tried to argue that the recorded conversation was taken out of context, that he was simply discussing a mystery novel he was writing, but the physical evidence was overwhelming. The yacht reservations, the insurance policies, the connections to previous deaths. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Marcus Thornfield was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His parents received similar sentences. Thomas Thornfield, who had not yet committed murder but had been preparing to, received 25 years. The corrupt officials who had helped cover up the murders were also prosecuted. The insurance companies that had paid out fraudulent claims sued the Thornfield family for restitution. Zoe Parker was cleared of all charges related to Isabella's stabbing. The district attorney ruled that her actions, while technically criminal, were justified by the imminent threat to Isabella's life. Isabella made a full recovery from her injury. The scar on her side serves as a permanent reminder of the day her best friend saved her life by becoming a criminal. But the case had a broader impact beyond just the Thornfield family. The investigation revealed systematic failures in the insurance industry's verification processes. New laws were passed requiring multiple witnesses for large life insurance policies taken out shortly before marriages. The yacht company that had facilitated the murders was shut down and its owners prosecuted as accessories. Amanda Chen's and Rebecca Martinez's families finally got answers about their daughters' deaths. They also received settlements from the insurance companies that had paid out fraudulent claims. Emily Watson started a foundation to help women identify signs of predatory relationships, using her near miss with Thomas Thornfield as a warning to others. Isabella and Zoe's friendship survived, though it was forever changed. Isabella has said publicly that she understands why Zoe felt she had no choice, and that she's grateful to be alive to have the conversation. Zoe returned to medical school and became a forensic pathologist, specializing in cases involving suspicious deaths. Marcus Thornfield maintains his innocence to this day, claiming he was framed by a jealous friend who manipulated evidence and recordings. He has filed multiple appeals, all of which have been denied. In prison interviews, Marcus continues to charm reporters and claims he was a loving fiancé who was planning a beautiful life with Isabella. But when asked about Amanda Chen and Rebecca Martinez, his mask slips just enough to reveal the calculating predator underneath. The Thornfield murders teach us that the most dangerous predators are often the most charming ones. Marcus didn't look like a killer. He looked like the perfect son-in-law. He was educated, wealthy, generous, and attentive. But those qualities weren't expressions of love. They were tools of manipulation. The red flags were there from the beginning. The isolation, the control, the rushed timeline, the financial generosity that created dependence. Isabella missed them because she wanted to believe in the fairy tale. Zoe Parker saw them but struggled to be believed. Her willingness to risk everything, her freedom, her reputation, her friendship to save Isabella's life is a testament to the power of true friendship and moral courage. But here's what haunts me about this case. How many other Marcuses are out there? How many other families are running similar operations? The Thornfields had been killing for profit for decades before anyone caught on. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong about someone close to you, investigate. Ask questions. Don't let politeness or social pressure stop you from protecting yourself or someone you love. And if you're a friend like Zoe, if you see someone you care about in danger but they won't listen, don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep investigating. Keep fighting for them, even if they hate you for it. Sometimes the greatest act of love is being willing to become the villain in someone else's story to save their life. What would you have done in Zoe's position? Would you have had the courage to commit a crime to prevent a murder? Let me know in the comments. If this case disturbed you as much as it disturbed me, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Vault with notifications turned on. We investigate cases like this every week, cases where nothing is what it seems, and the people we trust most can be the most dangerous. Hit that like button if you appreciate the deep investigative work we put into every case, and share this video with someone who needs to hear Isabella and Zoe's story. Check out our community tab for exclusive updates on the Thornfield case and behind-the-scenes content from our investigations. Until next time, stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and remember, the most beautiful weddings can hide the ugliest secrets. This is Crime Vault. I'll see you next week with another case that will make you question everything you think you know about human nature. Stay safe out there,